boy Roto Beast. I'm here with my boy Jeremy. We're to present you our NBA morning shoot around for Wednesday, April 3rd. If you're new to this channel, please make sure and click the subscribe button below. This week, you can watch all of our NBA, MLB, and NFL videos. If you haven't came and checked out our website at dfscheatsheet.com, you're absolutely missing out. We have all the tools to help you compete with the pros day in and day out, including a complete optimizer, tons of content, daily Fanduel and Draftkings cash lineups. Hey, we're truly a one-stop shop for all your DFS needs. So make sure to come check out the site here at dfscheatsheet.com. So, hey, what up, Jeremy? How you doing out there, bro?
Yo, what up, man?
Hey, another night, another slate to break down. Actually, been doing pretty good the past couple of days on NBA as well. I feel like once MLB rolls through, all these seasons are long. NFL, the NBA, they're 4 or 5 months. Once you start getting towards the tail end, you get a little bit bored with it. And so MLB is a new sport out. Obviously, we're playing a lot of MLB as well. But I think some people that don't play so much, they kind of moved on from NBA. And it's a little bit easier to win. And definitely we've been doing very good on NBA. So, I'm ready to continue the hot streak, man.
I'll be honest with you, bro. There's a lot of people. I'm one that this little stretch from when baseball starts until the playoffs begin in the NBA, I don't really mess with NBA, and that for no other reason than there's a lot of irrelevant games out there. Tonight was a slate that I actually thought about playing. I just didn't have the time to get entries in. I actually barely got any entries in at all today for even baseball. But a slate like today, I would have played because I had interest in Atlanta and San Antonio, and I had interest in the other two games. But Houston and Sacramento and Golden State and Denver, but on a normal big slate like this, I probably won't get too heavily invested in this slate if I get invested at all in it, just for the simple fact there's a lot going on that doesn't mean anything.
Right, for sure. A lot of you really got to pick and choose wisely. I'm ready to jump into it and just kind of get this done. Real quick before we do, if you guys don't mind, please take that quick second, click the like button down below. Helps me out. Really, really appreciate that from you guys. And man, let's just jump into this slate. We got 12 games. I'm ready to go. First game we're going to go with, it is going to be the Chicago Bulls going into Washington to face the Wizards. This game has a 227.5 over under, and Washington's favored by 10.5 in this one.
You have to start right here with Walter Lemon Jr., and I personally think there could be a little bit of recency bias here. I honestly think that people are so nearsighted when they look at this and they say, hey, 41.8, the guy came out of nowhere, and then he follows it up where he's starting and he plays 30 minutes and only gets 21.9 fantasy points. But if you take a look at what the guy actually did in each game, he has 7 steals in 2 games. So clearly the guy's playing defense. Clearly he's quick. He's also the guy who is playing their actual point guard position. I know Shaq Harrison has been popular as well, but he plays a small forward spot. But this dude, Walter Lemon, in both games he's played, he's filled up the stat sheet in all categories. He just didn't score 19 points like he scored the game before against Toronto. He still had 5 assists. He still got 3 steals. The only category that really lacked was the scoring. So, you add 12 to that, and it's a 33.9 output fantasy-wise. So, I think you could go back to this guy at 4.8 against Washington. Not the best defensive team in the league, obviously. But here's the thing with this team. Let's wait and see what happens with Chris Dunn. He's a game-time decision, but they've got guys who are out and guys that are out for the season on this Bulls team. We know the rotation is short. I think Robin Lopez is okay to play. I think a guy I've liked this guy since he was with Philadelphia, is Loeyu Cabaret. I think this guy is playable at 4.1 if he's going to get 25.4 minutes. I'll tell you, Lopez, Shaq Harrison, Cabaret, Lemon, Selden, Felicio, Archidakino, all these guys are in play for Chicago because the rotation is short. I would just really want to see what happens with Chris Dunn first, because obviously if he plays, he will garner a start most likely, and he will eat up usage. So if he's out, there's a lot to be made up, and you could just roll the same guys again.
Yeah, the Wizards are out of the playoff race, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so check this out. The Wizards, they're out of the playoff race, yet they're still playing their guys big minutes. I went through all their starters, and all their starters have played 35-plus minutes still the past 5 games. You got Thomas Bryant, 7,500. I'm like, no way, I'm not paying the price for that guy. But hey, we've been looking. I mean, we've been liking the bigs against Bulls all year, and the guy's been showing upside. In 2 of the past 3 games, when he actually got a ton of minutes, he played 39 and against Denver and against Phoenix. Man, the guy had monster games: 48 fantasy points, 46 fantasy points, showing us some upside, playing well. So I mean, and then 2 other games he got 27 and 27 minutes. So I think it's all about if he gets the minutes. But if this is the guy that's going to get us 35 against the Bulls tomorrow. We like bigs against the Bulls. I think he is in play. Portis 6.2. I mean, in all honesty, all these guys are playing 35 minutes still. I think they're all fair price and they are in play. Bill, 9,600. The price came down a little bit. He was way up there. Like I said, I mean, 36, 36, 38, 36. Guys, has 60 fantasy point upside. For me, I mean, he's the guy. I think he's strictly 100% GPP because of the price. But I mean, you got Washington starters. These they actually got some really good guys going against the Bulls that are a bunch of backups. This is a spot they all can have a really good game. And then you got Jabari Parker as well, 6,700 coming off the bench, and he's playing 30 minutes a game. Off the bench, and he's been playing very well. So I think he's a GPP player that you can look at as well. Played 30 minutes at least in 4 straight games. So yeah, man, I'm taking the starters. I'm taking Parker. If all these guys are going to continue to play a bunch of minutes against some backups, you got to like him in this spot.
Yeah.
Moving on, next game we're going to go with is going to be the New York Knicks going against Orlando to face the Magic. This game has a 212.5 over under, and the Magic's favored by 12 in this one.
Hey, Orlando on the outside in right now. They need a route here, right? They're on the outside looking in. They're currently 9th. They're on the outside looking in, and this is a big game for them. For here on out, big games for Orlando. So what does that mean for the Knicks? You get a chance to play spoiler. So Emmanuel Mudiay at 6.5, I think, is in play. Mitchell Robinson, the 9.2 is too expensive. I can't go there. I understand he's had a couple of really big games, but there's not a chance in hell that I'm going to pay 9.2 for Mitchell Robinson, especially when Vucevic is 9.5 in a meaningful spot for him. I will pay 9.5 for Vucevic all day long before I even think twice about Mitchell Robinson.
Right now, every slate is jumping up like 1,000. Last slate, he was like 8,000. I thought that was a crazy price tag, and now he's 9,200.
Mm-hmm. So look, Cornette at 6,000. I understand he's coming off a career scoring game. No, thank you, not 6,000. To grab Gordon, who's in a meaningful spot. So I'm not really interested in the Knicks. Moutier is a guy at 6.5. The minutes are there. I can see paying him. Damian Dotson, another guy at 5.7. Tournament exposure, I'm fine with, and that's kind of where I'll keep that.
Yeah, on the Magic, you talked about it, man. They need this game. It's a meaningful game. They're going to play their starters, and all their starters are fair price. 9.5 for Vucevic in a game that's a must win. I mean, this guy can go off for 20 and 15, 30 and 15. The guy has that upside. 9,500. The price tag is very fair. I actually really do like him in this spot. And then I mean. I'm not going to go through all the starters, but they're all, good prices. None of them are priced up. They're very fair price tag. Aaron Gordon, 7.1. I think he's a really good GPP play. Fournier, he has some upside. And then off the bench, you always got to look at Terrence Ross. They find a way to get this guy, about 30 minutes. Get 28 to about 30 minutes a game, 4,800. Hey, the guy, he's getting the minutes you can see, but he's been up and down. But 4,800 as a GPP play, he showed you against Memphis. The guy has 40 fantasy point upside. I think Terrence Ross is a really good GPP play on this slate. But I'm going to stick with those 6 guys. Those are the guys that are really going to get the minutes. And then, the only other guy, even, GPP consideration is you can look at Carter Williams. He's been getting some consistent run off the bench, 4,200, close to a job spot play. But that's it for me, man. Next game that we're going to go with is going to be the Indiana Pacers going into Detroit to face the Pistons. This game we don't have an over-under yet, but Detroit is favored by 1.5. And this is a meaningful game for both sides of this, man.
Meaningful game for both sides of this. And Darren Collison is out, and we know what that does to Corey Joseph and Tyreek Evans. Corey Joseph, I think, is a really strong play at 3.6 in this game. Detroit struggled all year long defending the perimeter players, guards, small forwards, shooting guards, etc. I do think this is a nice spot for Thaddeus Young if Blake Griffin doesn't play. He's a game time decision now. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that. He's got knee soreness. If he doesn't, I think at 6.3, it's a really nice spot for Thaddeus Young. I also like Miles Turner at 8-1 as a contrarian play because I think we'll look at this like you do, to be honest with you, and might say that it's two bigs going against each other. I think Miles Turner has a really nice skill set, very long. I think he can get hook shots over Andre Drummond. He can also knock down a couple of threes. His minutes are huge right now, playing 32.2 over his last 5 games, averaging a double-double at 15 and 10. 8.1 is a really contrarian prior guy in a meaningful spot. Corey Joseph, that's kind of where I'll look to get exposure is at 3.6 for him. Outside of that, I mean, look, you could look to play Tyreek Evans in tournaments. You could look to play Bogdanovich in tournaments. It's a good spot for Bogdanovich. I just don't happen to like the price because it's a fair price. I don't feel like I'm getting a discount at all. But 31 minutes and 26.2 points is what the guy's averaging. It can't be ignored in his last 5 games. And like I said, they're very weak against perimeter players. You got Wayne Ellington and Bruce Brown and Reggie Jackson as perimeter defenders. Bogdanovich is a long guy, man. He can knock down 3. He can get to the rack. I do on the spot. I'm just not thrilled with his price.
Yeah, man. On the Detroit side of things, I mean, let's just be real. I mean, there's one guy to play. It's Andre Drummond. The guy's playing 37, 38 minutes a game with no Blake Griffin down there. The guy's just cleaning up all the boards. He faced Indiana 3 times this year. The first time he faced him, he got into foul trouble. He only played 25 minutes in that game. He faced him 2 more times, 37, 38 minutes, 56 and 51 fantasy points, 10.8 price tag. I like him in this spot if Blake Griffin is out. I think he's a really, really good play. That's going to give you a solid floor. And even outside of these couple of games against Indiana, the guy's just been playing very well. In general, the past 3 games since Blake has been out, he's really kind of just, taking over the ownership on the board. Like I said, 18 rebounds, 19 rebounds, 17 rebounds. I like him, man. I think he's the guy that you want to look at on the Pistons side of things. Outside of him, you can look at Reggie Jackson. He has to pick up a little bit of the scoring with Blake Griffin out. 5.5 is a fair price tag, but he's strictly a GPP play for me. And then, I'm not going to honestly really be playing none of these other guys off the bench. You could possibly look at Ish Smith. He's a guy that'll get, minutes close to 20 at a bare minimum price tag. Thon Maker has been the guy that he's been in the starting lineup. With Griffin out, 4.3 I think is a fair price tag for him. As you can see, 28 and 41 minutes of past 2, and he actually just really dominated this matchup against Indiana. So, I think he's a really, really good play as well. I think that if we get, news early that he's going to be the starter, I think you could put him in as a cheap guy and just get away with it and feel comfortable. He's going to get you, 20 to 22 fantasy points. It's all about if he's starting. But that's really it for me, man. The main guys are just, Drummond, Jackson, and Thon Maker are the 3 guys I'm really interested in, and possibly Ish Smith as a drop spot.
Moving on.
Go, man. Next game we're going with is going to be the Boston Celtics going into Miami. We don't have an over-under yet, but Boston's favored by 2 in this one.
So this is another game that these 2 teams just played each other in their last game, like the last game we just talked about. So what we did talk about was Al Horford and Aaron Baines playing together and how much I thought that would free up Al Horford because I think he's a really skilled power. I think he's a true, and Al Horford went nuts. So if he plays tomorrow, I think you have to look at the same exact thing. Will there be adjustments for Miami? This is a playoff game. It just is. We know where Miami's at. We know where Boston's at in the playoff race. Miami trying to get in and stay in, and Boston has opportunity to move up with seeding. So I look for Horford to play. This game means something. I think Terry Rozier at 6,000 is interesting, and so is Gordon Hayward. If Jaylen Brown and Marcus Morris don't play, Jaylen Brown was ruled out in the last game, didn't play. My point about the last game with Jaylen Brown was it's 24 minutes that he'd been playing, and it's 24 minutes that would get made up by Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier, etc. So I think those guys become playable in this spot. If in fact those 2 guys don't play. But to me, Al Horford is the play again because of how skilled he is as a passer. His assist, because he's a good assist numbers have been there for his career. But you put Aaron Baines in at the center position, and you put him against Kelly Olynyk or James Johnson, who stands out on the 3-point line. James Johnson's a dirty defender. Olynyk can down the three, etc. But Horford is such a good passer in drawing double teams and dishing, and then also in the fast break game, he can pass the basketball. He can be your outlet player, etc. So I like Horford at 7-6. I think he's a very fair price, especially just going off against these guys. I just think it's a really good spot for him again. It's just a good matchup.
On the Heat side of things, I mean, we got to wait on some news. That's what's really going down with the Heat right now. We got 3 guys that are game time decisions. Derrick Jones is already ruled out. I mean, I think you go to Dragic, 6,500. It's still a very fair price tag. The guy's been injured, a lot of the season. They had him on a minute restriction. Past 3 games, these games are meaningful. In the past 3 games, he's played 38 minutes. He just had a really good game against Boston, 45 fantasy points. On this price tag, that's 8x, almost 9x. You gotta like that. I still think he's too cheap, so I like him. He's gonna be my favorite play on Miami. And then you can look at a guy like Bam, 7.4. I never thought I would be really recommending him all season, but he took Whiteside's job, and he's playing right around 30 minutes a game. Just had a really good game against Boston. He's the one that the price tag is pushing it a little bit for me. I wish he was a little bit cheaper. So GPP play, Kelly Olynyk's fair price, 4.8. Waiters, a 5.1 GPP play. And then you can always look at Dwayne Wade as well. They're giving him some run, 6,200. I still think it's a decent price tag for him. He's playing close to 30 minutes a game. And he has 40 fantasy point upside. So, yeah, that's really where I'm at. Just got to kind of, wait on some news and look at Dragic tomorrow.
And move on.
Next game we're going with, it's the Toronto Raptors going into Brooklyn to face the Nets. This game we don't have an over-under, but Toronto is favored by 1.5 in this one.
Yeah, so here's something interesting, right? So Danny Green, you mentioned they had moved him out of the starting lineup in place of Van Vliet. If that continues, I think Van Vliet's a really good play in this spot. And this is a spot that I like Ibaka. At 5.3, I think that if they're going to start Gasol and you're going to roll Ibaka out off the bench, the only problem that happened in the Orlando game was he only played 20 minutes, right? I mean, he was more than a point per minute, which we always look for. He only played the 20 minutes, though. So, look, Leonard at 9.1 is really cheap in this matchup. Siakam at 7.4 is really cheap in this matchup. And Kyle Lowry at 7.1 is really cheap in this matchup. And you can't not mention that Gasol is only 5'8", and we have absolutely targeted centers all against Brooklyn. And they've just given us some monster games. I go back to the Laker game, with JaVale McGee going for 70, I believe. So these guys are really cheap. I think this is good value on this slate in this spot. Toronto is the 2 seed right now. Brooklyn, I think, is the 7. And we've said Brooklyn plays hard. They're going to be at home. This is a playoff type atmosphere for Brooklyn, which has some inexperienced players to say the league come to these types of games. So that'll be interesting. But look, 9-1 for Kawhi in an up and down game where you've got a young team who could possibly turn the ball over. D'Angelo Russell, we know, has a tendency to turn the ball over, so there's possible steal opportunities. Nobody can guard Siakam. We've taken centers all year long against Brooklyn. So if Gasol starts at 5'8", you have to love that as well.
And Brooklyn, it's tough because Toronto's a really, really good defensive team. Everybody's healthy right now for the most part, and like I said, they're solid defensively. The guys that I want to look at on the Nets are the guys. I mean, they're playing their dudes the minutes. So I mean, there's 4 guys that I really like on the Nets. You can look at D'Angelo Russell, 9.3. The price tag is way up there and kind of a tough matchup. So, I mean, he's strictly GPP, but Joe Harris, 4.9. The guy's playing 35-plus minutes, and he's going to give you 25 fantasy points. That's where he's been the past 6-7 games in a row, shooting the ball very well. They need to win every game. And they're, like you said, this is a possible playoff matchup. Or do you really want to go into the playoff trying to face the Raptors? Nah, they want to try to move up. So I like Joe Harris. I like D'Angelo Russell. And then the 2 guys that come off the bench and play a bunch of minutes. You got Dinwiddie, 5.2, fair price tag, 40 fantasy point upside. And you got Karis LeVert, same thing, 6.1, coming off the bench, still playing about 28 minutes. The guy has upside in GPPs. So I'm going to stick to those 4 guys, and let's move on, man. Next game we're going to go with, It is going to be the Philadelphia 76ers going into Atlanta to face the Hawks. This game, we don't have an over-under, but Philadelphia is favored by 5.5 in this one.
And I just want to say one quick thing, bro. D'Angelo Russell, I don't think you did. I don't think you did him justice right there, because I may be crazy, but I would play D'Angelo Russell in cash tomorrow. I just feel that confident about the spot he's in on the slate. I think you get him at low ownership, and I think it's a guy that could put up 50 tomorrow. You look at what he's done against Toronto this season. He has a 55, I think, a 43. You look at, his last 6 games, he's had at least 50 in all of them but one where he had a dud and threw up 28. 9.3 for that kind of production is so cheap. I just think it's a really good price for a guy who's playing at another level right now. So moving on to Philadelphia, look, it's about Jimmy Butler and Joel Embiid, right? So Joel Embiid is listed as out. If Jimmy Butler is going to miss again, I think that this is a spot where you go right back to Ben Simmons. JJ Redick at 5.8, very fair price. Jonah Bolden at 5.5 starting. I don't like that, but I'll tell you exactly the same exact thing I said the other night. I will roll out Mike Scott once again. And that's kind of where I'm at with Philadelphia.
On the Hawks side of things, hey, Trae Young, man, 9,100. We just talked about the other day. The guy's trying to steal this Rookie of the Year. He's playing very well, playing a bunch of minutes. Man, I like him in this spot. You're going against Ben Simmons head-to-head, especially if Butler's out and you got to beat out. Then I think the game could definitely, stay somewhat close and be very competitive. So, yeah, Trae Young is where I'm going to start at. John Collins, 7,500. If he's a game-time decision, if he does play, then I definitely think that he's in. He's definitely in play at that price tag. Outside of that, I got to see what's going on. Vince Carter, he started today, and but they're kind of all over the place with the rotation. So, I want to see kind of who's in that starting lineup before I make kind of my decision. Justin Jackson, 3,600. The only other guy that I think you can look at is Davis. I actually played him today in cash games at 3,500. The guy gave me, I think it was like 24 or something. He's playing a bunch of minutes right now, so he's in play, GPPs. But my favorite 2 guys, honestly, it's really just Trae Young, Collins, and I'm ready to move on.
Cool.
Next game we're going with, it is going to be the Charlotte Hornets going into New Orleans to face the Pelicans. Do you have the – oh, no, I have it right here. Sorry. So we don't have an over-under, but Charlotte's favored by 2.5 in this one.
So there's 2 teams in the East that aren't eliminated. One of them is Charlotte. The other one is Orlando. And I like Kemba here, man. I think this is the last, hurrah here, right? They've got to win this game. We know that New Orleans is not playing all of their guys. We know what's going on here in this situation. So I'm just going to say this. I think this is the last chance to get Kemba Walker in a meaningful spot. They're trying to hold on for dear life. 9,000. I know his home road splits are not the best. But, you can look at Dwayne Bacon. You can look at Miles Bridges. You can look at Jeremy Lamb if he plays. If Jeremy Lamb is going to play at 4.9, I think you have to give him consideration. But my main focus is Kemba Walker. I think this is the last chance to get him where it's relevant, and they're holding on, trying to get a playoff spot.
The Pelicans, you got Julius Randle, Peyton. Those are the guys that you really want to look at. Possibly Kendrick Williams. In GPPs, the guy's been getting the minutes as well. And then you got to wait on the Anthony Davis news. If Anthony Davis is out, it's the same story we've been saying basically the past month. If Anthony Davis is out, you could possibly look at Okafor, Diallo as punt plays, both 3,600. And then you got this guy who just came out of nowhere, Christian Wood, power forward. I think they're going to give this guy maybe a little bit more minutes. He's played 31, 27, 27. I wouldn't be surprised if they tick him up to regularly 31, 32 minutes and kind of see if he can, stay consistent the last few games of the season, because he's been a big time surprise, man. He's getting you 25 and 9. And 2 of the 3, 23 and 9 and 2 of the 3, and then get you a double against the Lakers and plays good defense. I think he's a guy that is interesting. I think he's maybe a little bit more GPP play, but the way he's playing right now at a 6.6 price tag, you may be over to, I don't know, it's borderline, but I like him. Outside of that, that's really where I'm at, man. I'm not really too interested in the Pelicans, to be honest.
Moving on.
Next game we're going with, it's going to be the Minnesota Timberwolves going into Dallas to face the Mavericks. We don't have an over-under, but Minnesota's favored by 1 in this one.
So, look, you look at the standings, and with identical records are Oklahoma City and San Antonio at 45 wins, both of them 7-8. This is a meaningful game here for San Antonio. I just don't know if they can get it done. But I think they're going to swing, right? And you have to look at Denver as being a pissed-off team, right? They're a pissed-off – they have to be a pissed-off team. So who do you look at? I don't know, man. Rudy Gay at 6'1" sticks out. Bryn Forbes at 4.5. Maybe a shot with Marco Bellinelli at 3.9 is a dart ray. 8.6 is really fair for a DeRozan price, but it's just scary, man. 8.6 on DeRozan against Denver. I really don't have a lot of interest in San Antonio because of how good defensively Denver has been this season. And I'm going to take tonight as kind of a blip on the radar.
I mean, on the Nuggets side, I think so. I mean, both teams are on the second end of a back-to-back. Advantage goes to Denver. Obviously, they're going home. Spurs are going to have to go into Denver. I mean, we always talk about that. That's a big factor. And the Nuggets are going to be pissed off, man. They lost to the Warriors today, and it was a big-time game. So, I mean, I think this is a spot where they could definitely get on the Spurs. The advantage definitely goes to the Nuggets. I mean, I think you can look all 5 of the starters are in play. I think they're all fair price tag. Barton, 5.1. Harris, 4.5. Both are really, really good price tags right there. Jokic, 10.5, going against Aldridge, who we always say is not a real center. This is a game that Jokic could have his way in down low for sure. And then, who are they going to put on Paul Millsap? 6.9. Rudy Gay is a small forward, not a power forward. I definitely think this is a spot that Jokic and Millsap definitely, bully down low. They're going to be going against undersized guys. So both of those guys are in play. Murray's always a GPP play. Outside of that, I mean, Mason Plumlee, he's a guy that gets 25 minutes, 5,000. He's going to get you 20, 25 fantasy points. Very consistent. You can look at him if you're just looking for somebody to kind of give you a solid floor. But outside of that, I mean, all these guards with everybody healthy, I mean, I'm not really looking at it. The only guy, I mean, I would even consider is Monte Morris. He's the first guy that's been off the bench in the guard spots. But that's it, man, for Denver. And let's move on.
I try to tell you guys to load up Boogie Cousins. I try to tell you guys to load up Boogie Cousins.
Did you get
Boogie?
Yeah, I didn't see.
28, 12, and 5.
What is that fantasy?
I don't know what I didn't look. I have to look and see what he did fantasy wise. But he had 28 points. Huh?
Probably like 55.
Yeah, 28 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. So
like 50.
Probably 60.
That's
60 at 8.5 was his price. Look, and look, I'm going to say 2 things. One, that game was never close. They got routed. It was a 22-point Warrior lead at the end of the 3, right? They outscored the Warriors 38-30 in the fourth quarter to make it a 14-point deficit as an end result, but they got waxed. And this is a unique situation too. And in sports, there can be a huge letdown after a big game. There could be some letdown, and Denver's in a unique situation. We talk all the time about teams on the second half of a back-to-back going to Denver. Denver's now going home to altitude as well. So back-to-back. So that's an interesting little situation there.
For sure. Moving on, next game we're going to go with is going to be the Memphis Grizzlies going into Portland to face the Trailblazers. We don't have an over-under yet, but Portland's favored by 10.5 in this one.
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you here, man. I mean, there's some value with Dorsey, Holiday, Ivan Rabb. Now Memphis Valanciunas is out for the season. We already know Jaren Jackson Jr. is out for the season. You have to wait and see what happens with Joakim Noah. If he's out, then Rabb's in for probably 35 minutes, and they can't play pick and roll basketball. So I think Rabb at 4.8. Kabakalo, you can't ignore what the guy's doing. He's had, I think, 2 40-point fantasy point outputs in his last 3 games. Let me just double check that real quick. But close played, he's playing at a different level right now. So you have to give him consideration. Dylan Wright at 7,000. It just depends for me. If Conley plays, then obviously it's a no-brainer to fade him. But if Conley's out, 7,000 for a point guard in the spot, they don't have a lot of guys to play. Chandler Parsons is probably the most interesting play. If he comes off the bench and their rotation is small with the guys out that they've got out. So I think this is kind of a wait and see who, Conley and Noah are a big deal. If they're out, I think that you can definitely target the value of Memphis because the rotation will be so small. They're kind of in the same spot Chicago was in 2 nights ago.
For Portland, man, I mean, I'm just going to keep it short and simple. I think that, there's 2 guys that you really look at. You look at Damian Lillard, 10.2 with no McCollum. You got to like him. And the price tag, I think, came down a little bit. I think he was like 10.6, 10.7 last slate that I seen him on. I could be wrong, but I like him either way. 10.2 is a very fair price tag. Canner's, he's the starter now. He's doing Canner things, man, getting you double-doubles. The past 2 games, one game he played 25 minutes, the other one he played 32 minutes. No, was it 32? Let me double check that for you real quick. No, okay, so one game he played 25 and the other he played 34. So I mean, obviously we would love to see Canner play right around 30 minutes. At least we know that he's willing to play him, 34 minutes. So I mean, I like him. 6.9, I think it's a very fair price tag. We see it against Minnesota in 25 minutes. He got you 41 fantasy points. So definitely think Canner and Lillard are by far the best 2 plays. After that, you got a bunch of guys, really splitting a bunch of minutes. So I'm just going to stick to Canner and Lillard. They're probably the only 2 guys I would legitimately think about playing.
Move on.
Cool. Next game we're going to go with, it is going to be Utah going into Phoenix to face the Suns. This game, we don't have an over-under, but Utah's favored by 9.5 in this one.
So, look, this is rough, too, because Kyle Korver's out, Derek Favors is out, and Jay Crowder is a game-time decision. So, if these guys are going to be out, I think 2 guys you could definitely look at are Royce O'Neal and Thabo Sefolosha. I just think those are 2 guys that will get a little bit of a bump. Royce O'Neal will obviously be the most notable to get a bump that people will recognize. I think Sefolosha is extremely contrarian and off the radar. But it'll make the game more competitive. We know Devin Booker's playing on another level right now. Rudy Gobert at 10.5. I think if Crowder is going to be out as well, I think Rudy Gobert and Ricky Rubio are 2 guys that I would like to get a lot of exposure to, simply because I think that Phoenix can keep this game competitive and within 12 points. And if it stays within 12 points, Phoenix will play their starters because they have a smaller rotation as well. DeAndre Ayton not being active and already been ruled out. 10.5 for Rudy Gobert in a spot where Devin Booker could go absolutely nuts and keep the game close. The usage for Rudy Gobert without Derek Favors, without Kyle Korver, I think could open up a huge spot for him to have a monster game. So he's probably my favorite center as we go this. But 10.5 for Gobert without Derek Favors. If Jay Crowder is to miss, who can act the power forward if he does play, he's got that big body. He can get rebounds and bang around. If he's out as well, I don't know how you just don't go to Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, on the Suns, I'm not paying 7.2 for Holmes going against Gobert. There's 3 guys that I like. Keep it short, keep it simple. Booker, 11,000. He's just on an absolute crazy tear right now, so you got to consider him in GBPs. Even though it is a little bit tougher of a matchup against a pretty good defensive team, hey, man, he's just been on fire right now. He's going to play the minutes. So you got to at least look at him in GPP. And then Mikal Bridges, 5,500. He's getting a ton of minutes. And Josh Jackson. Both of those guys are playing 34, 35 minutes. And they're both getting you right around 5X. And they have a little bit of upside. So, I mean, the only 3 guys I'm going to consider on the Suns is Bridges, Booker, Jackson. I mean, I know they got some other guys that are, playing some minutes and stuff. But they just don't do nothing. And I'm not going to chase – no other guys outside of those 3.
Bro, one thing I want to go back on really quick is I look for news tomorrow on San Antonio. And I'm looking at the standings right now because I'm just trying to get a full picture of this. But this is a spot that I can see Popovich ruling somebody out. I could just see him resting guys on the second end of a back-to-back. I'm looking at the standings. It's a big game for Denver. It's a big game for Houston, who we're about to talk about. And it's a big game for the Clippers as well. I mean, and Utah. These guys are all so close, and the matchups for the playoffs and the series are so much different, right? You talk about this Houston game we're about to get into. I mean, Houston legitimately could get to the 2. They probably can't get that 1 seed, but they could get to the 2. We talked about this last night, how big tonight's game was for Denver, because they could find themselves as a 3. And you talk about, look at the Clippers here, right? The Clippers, if they can win tomorrow night, Utah, they have to win tomorrow night, because you're talking about the difference in playing Houston or playing Portland. So I could see Popovich playing mind games. They're already in. I could totally see him wanting to match up, probably, or thinking we're going to play in the first round. This is a playoff type game. I'm not going to give Denver anything in this game. We're not going to go balls to the wall and give them anything. We're just going to rest guys and take the night off. We're in the playoffs already. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, it makes absolute sense, especially if he thinks there's a good chance they're going to play him in the playoffs, because he doesn't want to give them no film against them. You know what I mean? Like
right. This time of year, basketball is so much different. It slows down. They run an offense. It's not up and down.
Yeah, man. Hey,
there's game planning and scheming going on, and I could see in this type of spot, Popovich is saying, you know what, we're going to rest DeRozan, or we're going to rest Aldridge, and we're going to call it a day.
Yeah, no, I can see it for sure. Hey, let's jump into this last game, man. You talked about the importance of it. So we got Houston Rockets going into Los Angeles to face the Clippers. This game has a 229 over under, and the Clippers are favored by 1 in this one at home. I was surprised the Clippers were favored.
Yeah, well, I don't know, man. This is interesting. This is really, really interesting as well. I'm going to load up Chris Paul. That's who I'm going to load up. That's kind of where I'm going to – there's a couple of guys that for me, I think that I will build my lineup on. I really will go Bear because of, especially if Crowder's out, and then Chris Paul. I understand there's narrative here, but what happened tonight with James Harden, right? I just happened to pop open the ESPN app and look and see what was going on in that Sacramento game. And I believe at halftime, the 2 guys that were going bonkers were Clint Capella and James Harden, kind of pretty much what we said, right? And I remember telling you last night, don't load up Willie Cauley-Stein, you're wasting your money. And I think at halftime, he had 2 points and 1 rebound. So I don't know how that ended up because I haven't looked, but I'll tell you one thing. I love Chris Paul in this spot as much as I loved Harden tonight against Sacramento. And the main reason that will hinge on one thing, the availability of Patrick Beverley. I don't think that you're going to see Patrick Beverley guarding Chris Paul. I think you're going to see Patrick Beverley try to frustrate the shit out of James Harden. I just think that's what you're going to get. They're ex-teammates. There's some narrative there. I just think you're going to see that. As far as Capella goes, 9,000, just load him right up again. This is a good spot for him. And the guy that I'm going to tell you that I always play against the Clippers is Kenneth Faried. You can go back and check out what this guy did in seasons where he wasn't getting any run, and then in games he played against the Clippers, just took a huge deuce all over him. So I will play Faried at 4-1. It's a GPP play. I will play it just because the history I have in my mind. That's where I'm going to keep it. The only other guy I'll give you consideration for is Eric Gordon at 4.6. This is an Eric Gordon type spot. He can knock down 6 threes tomorrow night, but my main focus is going to be on Chris Paul.
Yeah, on Clippers side of things, I mean, they're playing – they have a pretty set rotation. I mean, the guys fantasy relevancy-wise, I actually think Patrick Beverley at 5,000 is a very fair price tag for him. I think he could play a couple extra minutes. I think that would be a good strategy for Doc Rivers, is to kind of employ the dog on him a little bit. So 5,000 GPP play, I think he is in play. Gallinari, he's one of their best players that they got on the team, if not their best player. 7,800 is a tough price tag to pay for him, but he's playing a bunch of minutes, and the guy does have 45 fantasy point upside. GPP play as well. The 2 other guys, you look at Montrezl Harrell, 7,200 coming off the bench. He had a big game already this year against Houston earlier in the year. 40, almost 46 fantasy points. At a 7.2 price tag, that's about 6, almost 7x. And then you got Lou Williams, 7,200. He's their best scorer. Whenever Doc needs, some buckets, he goes to him. This is a big spot, and he's a big time player. So I think he's in play. But I think the guys, I don't know. The guys I really like that I honestly think you could play are probably just Beverly, Gallinari, GPP. And the Harold Lou Williams. Shamet, not Shamet. This guy, Gilgis Alexander, he's been playing pretty good, and he's playing, but his minutes have kind of been up and down a little bit at a 6,500 price tag. We need 32 just for him to hit value. So I'm not really probably going to go that route.
Any other night, Gilgeous Alexander, I think, gives you a good cash game floor at this price tag, but not against Chris Paul and Chris Paul's building. That's Chris Paul's building, man.
Yeah, for sure. So, hey man, 12 games. That was a chunk of games right there. Hey, but we got through it. Hey, we're with you guys all the way through the rest of NBA season. Hey, we're sticking it out together. So let's get this money tomorrow. Make sure to check out the site, dfscheatsheet.com. Got all the different sports going on right now. So check it out. Hey, outside of that, man, good luck on your guys' contest tomorrow. Peace out.